Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of
GETL.
My name is Hans.
I'm Edward.
And welcome to episode 21. I totally screwed up that for now and forever after.
When will we ever get it perfect?
Well,
it just
if it's
doesn't happen.
If it's not you telling us about your death scenarios, it's me totally forgetting to even use the tagline.
So it's either death or screwing it up.
Or totally forgetting. Yeah, exactly. Well, welcome everybody to another episode. We're happy to have you with us, and it's a bit of a special episode for us because for the first time ever, we're actually recording ourselves via video for episode 21. Yes. So as you know, we all did something special for episode 18, which was very XXX rated. Well, now for episode 21, given that we're adults, we are progressing.
Yes, because it's time. It's time for the podcast to grow up.
Well, I mean, we are available on YouTube, and we kind of figured that as cool as it looks right now, whereby, you know, you can see an image of whatever the episode is for this podcast, you know, with like a cool, like wavy thing in the background, we figured, you know what, we'll add our ugly mugs. So you have something additional to stare at should you be using YouTube as the platform.
Listen, I didn't mean to speak for you, but I know I'm a sexy ass model. Okay.
Well, look, I just wanted to do it today because, believe it or not, I'm having a fabulous hair day. I literally woke up and haven't even brushed it yet, believe it or not. Maybe I shouldn't be admitting that.
Nice. That's nice. Gosh.
Okay, so let's get straight into the thick of things.
Yeah.
So, Edward, I have a question for you, and this will lead into a greater discussion of time, which, as you know, is one of my favorite tropes when it comes to, you know, science fiction and you know, entertainment media, specifically in video games and movies and TV. Yeah. So, what I want to ask you is the following question. All right?
Yeah, I'm listening.
If someone had to come to you, not necessarily me, but anyone, and said, next Wednesday's meeting has been moved forward 2 days, what day would you say the meeting would then be on?
Well, if it's moved forward 2 days, let's say the meeting is on Sunday, I'll put it on Tuesday.
Remember, my question was, let's move next Wednesday's meeting forward by 2 days. Yeah. So which day would you think the meeting would be on?
Just you move forward, so I'll put it
on
Monday.
Okay, that's very, very interesting.
Why would you move it back? Oh, well, so would you move it later, rather?
So I was thinking about it, and my gut instinct when you said move forward was to actually move it 2 days later to Friday.
See, that doesn't make sense to me.
You see, so obviously the more I thought about it, I was like, actually, you know what? If you're moving a meeting forward, it's coming closer to you.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like I'm making the motion on the camera thinking you're seeing me. But
well, if our viewers are on YouTube, they will now. So.
Yeah. Like it comes to me. Yeah.
Now, look, the reason why I'm speaking about this is because there was some brand new research by a lady called Lera Boroditsky at the University of Colorado in San Diego. And she found that, as it so happens, just that simple expression, there's actually a perfect divide between people who would say they would move the day earlier and people who would move the day later. And it has to do, I know it's strange, but there's two aspects to this. So the first is perception of time, how everyone perceives time in a different way. And we will definitely speak about this a little bit later in you know, more detail because it's a super, super interesting topic. But in this scenario, it also has to do with the English language because the sentence is not finite. It's not perfect, if that makes sense. You know, by saying moving it forward now, if you've got a different perception of time, your forward could mean forward 2 days ahead, but as you said before, as we've demonstrated, could also be moving it forward earlier in time.
I get that. Like the English, like that sentence isn't dictated by any laws.
No.
Yeah, that's actually so interesting.
So it's very interesting, and it also has to do with how, as I mentioned before, the way you perceive time. But then that also has to do with how you perceive space and other abstract concepts. You know, it all kind of like ties together.
Yeah.
So, you know, like there's another example that this researcher put forward, and it was, the best is ahead of us, the worst is behind us. But the thing is, there are certain cultures which perceive time in different ways. So, you know, like, for example, let's use another expression where we can say we're approaching the deadline, or the deadline is approaching. So they mean the same thing, but one implies that you're heading towards it, and the other one implies you're heading away from it.
Yeah. Yeah, the ones...
Yeah, it's fascinating,
the one implies
right?
that it's heading towards you.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's
That's
all got to do with,
weird.
it's also like to do with yourself and your ego, which everybody knows what Freud spoke about. And, you know, how you think of yourself within the spatial concept or construct of time. And it's just, I don't know, it just feels, it's just so interesting how such a simple sentence could have so many variations, all determined by how you perceive time and the way that it flows. You know, whether it's forwards or backwards, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's actually
And
super
the most interesting thing about it is that no one is wrong. Whether you think it's moving forward or whether you think it's moving backward, the fact is you're both right. We're both right.
All you're doing now is you're making me paranoid about whenever I schedule meetings.
No,
now.
so this was basically the crux of this whole research was that in future, if you specify something like moving it forward, whether it's back or forward or whatever the case is, however you mentally perceive it, is to rather be specific. So if someone says we're moving the meeting forward by 2 days, they must then specify it will then be on Friday or on Monday. You know what I mean? And then actually give a date and time versus assuming you know how somebody else is perceiving the time.
Yeah, that's the best solution I can also think of. Like, imagine going to like scheduling a funeral or something.
Yes.
And you have to move it back a few days, and see, I'm just by default calling it moving back anyway, and you tell everyone that sorry, it'll happen, sorry, something came up, we have to move it back a bit.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Now, just to expand a little bit more on this, there are two means of perceiving time. One of them is time moving, and the other one is ego moving. And depending on which one you sort of gravitate towards, all depends on what's actually happening with you at that moment in time. Because interestingly enough, the same researcher found that people who had just gotten off a flight were more inclined towards an ego-moving perspective of time versus a time-moving perspective.
That's cool.
Right? Isn't that interesting? And
that's super cool.
Now, I wonder if there's more to that. Like, you know, like moving across like ley lines and, you know, time zones. Like, you know, if your internal clock sort of feels, well, you've gotten on a plane and you've got out, maybe you're more in the future, you know, regardless of whether you've traveled back in time or forward in time, depending on the time zone.
I think you're onto something.
It's like, cool, right?
In a way, that explains stuff like sleep apnea and jet lag and all the jazz, basically, whenever you travel. Because many people, they never suffer from quote-unquote jet lag or sleep apnea or any of the kind unless they travel for far distances. And even when they travel like only north or south, they'll still suffer from the same jet lag, even though the time didn't change.
Well, weirdly enough, with that in mind, I have personally experienced how traveling from east to west makes me less tired than traveling west to east, regardless of time zone.
That's cool.
So like
That's
the,
cool.
the ability to adjust is easier. Do you know what I mean? Like once you've landed in the location, and specifically when it was coming home. Of course, I mean, that's just me. That's my own personal experience. I don't have any scientific evidence today to talk about that. But it's interesting. If we go with what was said by Boroditsky, it may be the reason why I feel that way is because after traveling, I'm now going towards an ego perspective of time, where I'm feeling like I'm headed towards the future versus the future's heading away from me.
Yeah.
Hey? I don't know.
That's actually super... It makes sense. Like, I know it sounds like you're reaching, but it makes a crap ton of sense to me.
Okay, well, look. While we're on this, now I want to get into more of a deeper discussion about time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but it feels like it is flying forward.
Yeah.
I feel like
we're...
Yes, it's already Friday.
Not that. It's already half of 2020.
Oh, don't even remind me. We're already halfway through the year.
It feels like just yesterday we were speaking about Waffle House and COVID-19.
Yes. Oh, well, yes, we definitely have some COVID-19 news for you. So stay
that's
tuned.
Coming later,
#NSFW.
Yeah, we got to have that segment. It's just that so weird that we literally started this podcast on the cusp of basically the pandemic.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
It's already halfway through the year.
Well, look, we're celebrating episode 21.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Okay. Not to get too sidetracked. So back onto the discussion about time. So, I, in my personal opinion, I have found time it feels like it's accelerating. I feel like the older I get, the quicker days pass. Now, that's not to say that I'm less productive. I actually feel that I'm far more productive now in my old age than, previously. But it just feels like time is going a lot quicker. And I have noticed that a lot of people I speak to, in many ways, feel the same way. They feel that it's escalating. It's, especially my parents. When I talk to them, they're like 4 weeks have passed and it feels like one day. So, it's very quick. Now, I bring this up because I remember years ago, I actually read about perception of time, which goes into what we've just spoken about now with ego and, time moving forward, depending on how you perceive it. But more so to do with how the older you get, the reason why time seems faster is because you have more knowledge to look back on. In the sense of, if you're 1 year old, you only have 12 months or 365 days of something to call back on. Whereas if you're 5, you have 5 times the amount of information to call back on. So therefore, in a respect, you would experience, as a 5-year-old, you would experience that 1 year 5 times faster than a 1-year-old. All right?
Exactly. It's perspective, basically.
Yes. It in a way, that's exactly where we're actually going with this. So I found a super, super interesting topic exactly about this, about perception of time and how physics, naturally, science, explains why you perceive time faster as you age. So this is not just I'm feeling this, is it a cognitive bias? Am I imagining things, etc.? It is a legitimate fact of getting older, is that you will experience time faster. And the reason why this is so interesting is because we all know that the chronological passage of time doesn't change. A minute is a minute. An hour is an hour.
Yeah.
So if that's not changing, what is to make it seem like time is moving faster?
Age, essentially.
Yes. So there's a new European Review journal, which was conducted on behalf of Duke University, where a mechanical engineering professor by the name of Adrian Bejan actually talks through the processes behind this. It's actually quite an in-depth discussion. As always, we will link below so that you can go and read up a little bit more about it. but we'll just talk about the general idea of what he was referencing in terms of his study. And it has to do with mental stimuli and how we perceive it as we age. So, as I mentioned before, it's got to do with how much information you process on a daily basis. So, when you're younger, and not even that young, let's say 10, right? You only have 10 years of experience in your life to draw back on. So therefore, you are still consuming a lot of information. And this is actually why children are able to, or are often described as being sponges. They suck up everything, all the information around them. And
because they want to learn.
Sometimes even if they don't want to, like parents who accidentally swear around their kids,
it's... do you see what I mean? I understand.
So essentially what was discovered is that your physical mental image processing is accelerated as a young child, as a young person. And this has to do with other biological processes, like the fact that your brain is newer. So you're still developing different neural pathways. And as you age, those neural pathways, they don't ever stop growing, but they definitely are reduced to an extent. Okay? There's actually a very particular movement called the saccadic eye movement, or saccadic eye movement. Have you ever wondered when you if you're tracking something with your eye, have you ever wondered how sometimes you can do a smooth tracking if you see it, but other times your eye will jerk?
Yeah, it's basically your eye always needs to focus on something.
Yes.
And if it's not focusing, it's jerking.
So, okay. So the interesting thing about this is that saccadic eye movements are actually much faster the younger you are. And that has a direct correlation with the other biological processes like your neurons in the brain and how they are developed and so on and so forth. And that is also why you perceive time a lot slower when you're younger than when you're older. Because as you age, the saccadic eye movement decreases, just because there's no need to take in that much information anymore. So the interesting thing about that is because you're taking in somewhat less information, because you're able to draw on other things to build up the information around you, you perceive time as going faster because you're no longer taking in as much as you were when you were a child. Isn't that incredible?
Okay.
Isn't that fascinating?
That's fascinating. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
And so what Bajan also discovered is that, just like in the previous study that we mentioned, time is very much in the mind's eye. So every person still has their own perception of how fast or slow time is actually moving. And what was most interesting about this is he found, and I thought this was absolutely fascinating, he found that in his youth, because he was a basketball player, he actually discovered this perception of time on his own. Because in addition to age making time feel faster because you're taking in and processing less, it's also affected by things like lack of sleep. I mean, you know this. If you're tired the next day, the day will actually in many ways go quicker because you're mentally fatigued. So you're not concentrating as much on things as you would be if you were mentally alert. So, a tired day would often fly by versus a cognitive day where you're like awake and, you've had lots of caffeine and you're paying attention to everything.
You're jumping
So
around.
what he found was that as a basketball player, when he was younger, he just, without even doing any tests or anything, because this was just his perception, was that when they did, I think it's called a stay away game, where you travel to a location and, you're tired, etc., etc. And if the game was in the morning, they would perform worse. Like he knew that his basketball team would lose the match versus if they played later in the day and had good rest. And it was a fascinating thing because he said that when he was able to make that correlation, that in some ways he was able to, through good rest and actively training his mind, he was able to slow down time. Now, I know that sounds really interesting. Now, bear in mind, we're not actually talking about slowing down time. There's no real time travel happening here. It's all to do with time as perceived by your mind. Right? So mind's eye time.
So in his mind, it's dilating. The time is slowing
Yes.
down. He gets to focus more.
Exactly.
That's cool.
So anyway, it was really fascinating. I implore anyone who finds what we're talking about now interesting to go and read the study and the article surrounding it, because it's really it's fascinating. It's fascinating to understand how we all live on Earth. Time is a constant. It never changes. And yet, depending on what we're doing with ourselves at that moment in time, or maybe even from an event like traveling, how our perception of time changes, but time itself doesn't.
That's cool. That's dope.
So yeah, now imagine if you could control time. I mean, that's actually, it begs the question of, would we still, feel that time is moving faster or slower? Like, imagine we had the time stone from the Avengers. Now, okay, that's a bit different. Like, I know the time stone can actually, manipulate time.
Alter time.
But what if it was also down to the mind's eye? Like, what if a child playing with the time stone somehow manages time differently versus an adult?
How would that work, though? Like,
I don't know. That's just
like, let's say we all had time stones, or let's say there are only 2 time stones in the world, and a child is playing with one she picked up, and an adult is playing with another, but the adult actually tries to do something productive with it. How would they not clash?
Well, you see, maybe it would be more along the lines of, as an adult, as we mentioned before, we feel time is faster. So we use the time stone, but it still feels quicker than a child using the time stone. Does that make sense?
Yes.
But who knows? Maybe
way,
there's more to it than that, and we're just on the cusp of something. Maybe not. Rather, what I would like to know is, what do you guys think, who are listening to the podcast? Do you think using a time stone would be different depending on your age? Or better yet, how do you perceive time? Actually, answer the question that we had when we started the podcast. Let us know.
Exactly. Like,
is it forwards or backwards?
And also, if it's backwards, why are you here?
So, Edward, I know that I'm speaking about Infinity Stones now, but you discovered something about them this week as well?
We discovered the true origins behind the Infinity Stones, or not the origins, rather, not the origins, but what happened to them after the fact.
I hope they're still somewhere, because spoilers, after Tony Stark, I Love You 3000 uses them to save everybody, they just up and leave, right? They just disappear. Or they atomized, right? As far as I'm not really sure. It's something like that. They're either atomized, or they just went back into their respective locations.
See, I like to think that they went back. That they reset as I forgot her name, but Tilda Swinton's
character.
Tilda Swinton's character. She explained that everything would just reset. As long as the time stone comes back, everything else will reset. Basically into their respective time zones. That's what she explained. It doesn't mean she's the know-all and end-all of everything, but I like to think that's actually what happened. Like, it's just one less plot hole to explain out then.
What actually happened then?
But it turns out that the stones may have actually been destroyed.
Okay, that sucks. That's not not the answer that I was hoping for.
Yeah, so as it happens is, since the movie happened, since Endgame released and all the fans went and saw it, everyone kept asking Marvel, what is up? What's going on? Where has the stones gone? Have they reset? Have they not? And Marvel just, a few days ago, I think, at the time of this recording, they released an Instagram post essentially showing the stones just vanishing.
So can we accept this as official then? this is now an official response because it's on the Instagram channel?
Exactly. It number one, it's from Marvel, from the official Instagram Marvel, and number two, it's all in an effort to market their new Infinity Saga or whatever.
Okay, you mean all the movies on Disney Plus now? That's basically okay.
Yes. They call it the Infinity Saga.
Marvel.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, but hold on.
Thank you for that one.
I don't think. Okay, how about this? Because we're talking about time and everything now. What if? Yes, they're destroyed, but only in this timeline. Hey, because we know they're multiverses, right?
Exactly, especially after Doctor Strange 2 comes out now. So
also, in addition to that, we saw Loki steal the scepter, which had one of the stones. Yes. I forget which one.
It had the blue one,
Mind Stone, right? I think.
No, Mind Stone is yellow. I think the blue it's the same stone as the Tesseract.
Well, look, either way, he took one, and I'm hoping that's where the TV show carries on from.
Oh, it's
okay. Well, there you go. So he has a space stone up. But now the thing is, if Marvel's saying they were destroyed after Tony used them, then wouldn't that render everything obsolete?
I think destroying the time stone would render everything obsolete. But it is destroyed.
This is the thing.
See, that's the thing. And we know that Loki vanished with the space stone.
Exactly.
But destroying the time stone would basically just destroy all timelines, or at least the chance to alter them.
Is that canon, or is it more? Because there's only one set, right? There isn't one set of stones in every multiverse.
I believe it's one set across all multiverses.
No, yeah, okay. Well, my stance is Marvel be lying, and that this is just some sort of marketing department thing that is trying to twist something.
That's very, very, very possible. Like, these marketing guys, they don't always speak the truth. And I think, well, we're speaking about it now, so their job is done.
Well, look, you mentioned marketing, right? And I know I'm always bringing this up in every episode, or most episodes. But damn, Game of Thrones Season 8, that marketing material was it's going to be phenomenal. And we all expected so much, and it just didn't deliver.
No, you know what happened there, Hans? With Game of Thrones, the marketing guys knew what's up. They knew. And they were like, listen, let's just do the best we can so we can get our bonuses in GTFO.
It's take the best snippets, use what we can because we know it's a shit show.
Exactly. And they basically cut that shit together like the best Hollywood movie they could.
Well, I mean, I know it's weird to speak about Game of Thrones now because, it's over and, no one's buying the Blu-ray because HBO doesn't deserve any more of your money because they screwed it up. But there was something pretty awesome that we actually wrote about on Famous a couple of years ago, and it has to do with musical careers of some of the actors, right?
Yeah. Basically, if I recall correctly, I think it was 6 or 5 of the actors that I actually discovered are musicians. Now I've always been listening to the one, Ewan Rion. I think he played
Is he the guy from Nashville?
No, that's Michael Heisman. He's from Nashville. Ewan Rion, he played the bastard man.
Ramsey.
There we go. Now, I've been listening to his songs way before he even appeared in Game of Thrones. Now, upon discovering that Hodor was a DJ, I actually put together this post, and it's quite an intriguing post. All of these actors basically have vastly different musical approaches.
Yeah, so just to give a quick brief overview, because obviously go and listen to some of them, or yeah, go and listen to some.
Go and listen.
Actually, should we play a little bit?
Yeah, I think as you said, we can play.
Okay, well, look,
my
you originally wrote the post, so and you
Yes.
like the Ewan guy, right? So
Yes, I do.
We'll play a small snippet of his video because we don't want to get copyright infringed.
Yeah. Let's not get DMCA'd right at this moment.
Here you go. Here's a bit of it.
You are on my side. In the war in your mind. You try to be free. Well, that's something to be.
And there we go. So what do you think, audience? Let us know if you thought that was any good, or if you would have liked to have heard something else. And speaking of, Edward's actually going to go through the list quickly, just to let you know which of these Game of Thrones stars actually have musical careers. And yeah, go and check it out. And if you do like the music from any of them, let us know.
Yeah, so basically you just heard Ewan Rion, that's Ramsay Bolton. But also on the list, at least the list that I procured, is Michael Heisman, who played Dario Naharis. Jacob Anderson, who played
Hold
Grey
on.
Worm.
The previous guy, that was Daenerys' Bae, right?
Yes, Daria is
Before
the one she
Jon
left
Snow.
behind.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I think that's a plotline that
Listen,
didn't need to die.
We're not going to talk about this because you know my stance.
God. Yeah. We're just going to rant.
If we have to keep looking into what episode 8 was, season 8 was like, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, it's going to be bad. Okay, so moving on from that. Jacob Anderson, who played Grey Worm. He's a prolific English musician. Then we have Karis Van Houten, who played Melisandre, the Red
gorgeous.
Woman.
There we go.
The one who pooped out the shadow baby.
What would you say it like that?
And then obviously Ian Rion is next on the list. And after him is Jerome Flynn. Now, he may not look it, but back in the 80s, he was a ladies' man and a half.
That is so cool. Seriously,
Yeah,
I love the fact that there's like an 80s pop star.
Exactly, in Game of Thrones. And then Natalia Tena, she played Osha, which is Bran but basically the young Stark boys' caretaker.
Yeah.
She came from north of the Wall. That was Osha.
Ooh,
and obviously...
And she was also Nymphadora Tonks in Harry Potter.
And that's correct. Yeah, she played Nymphadora.
Just in case anybody... can you tell Harry Potterhead right here?
By the way, though, I feel that she had very little screen time for how important her character actually is in the books.
Are you talking about Harry Potter?
Yes, Nymphadora.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of things that happened in the movies. Look, okay. Overall, speaking about the films, Harry Potter, I know we're segueing now, but they're great. Compared to a lot of book to movie transitions, Harry Potter did a good job. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that is better in the books, and we know this. But yeah, it's decent. So, for some of the characters, obviously, we wish they had more screen time. But it's better than Game of Thrones season 8.
Yeah, it's better than a lot of things, actually. Anyway, we digress. Next on the list is Christian Nairn, who played Hodor, which basically inspired this entire post. Now, he's a DJ, so you won't find any vocal stuff from him, but it's still talented nonetheless. And that's all that is with the list. But I also added a bonus video at the end from Lily Allen. Now, she was... obviously not in the...
Yeah, she wasn't in Game of Thrones.
But she's the sister of Alfie Allen.
Oh!
Sorry, I couldn't find his name now. But Alfie Allen, who played Theon Greyjoy.
Yes! It's so funny. I've read this post a long time ago, but I couldn't remember.
Yes!
That's so cool!
In my mind, I was just the guy who had his wiener, who lost his wiener. That's all I could see in my mind. And...
That's awesome.
Basically, that's Alfie Allen. So
that's so
amazing.
cool. Wow. Okay, that's awesome.
And I bet there are many more out there that I just don't know of.
But, evidently, obviously from other TV series, but I think you're specifically talking about Game of Thrones now, right?
Yes, I'm specifically mentioning Game of Thrones. Like, I think Sean Bean, I know he used to sing in like musicals and stuff.
But Sean Bean was there for a split second.
Well, he was kind of
he was the catalyst.
Push.
Yeah.
Yes, the catalyst. There we go.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Now, on the topic of music, there's something else that I know that you've been dying to speak about.
Yes.
There's actually more to this topic, but Edward can't speak about it just yet because I'm not far enough in the game.
Yeah. So basically, I'm purposefully not speaking about certain stuff about Game of Thrones because I don't want to spoil Hans. Anyway,
you mean The Last of Us?
So sorry. Yes. So anyway, what I do want to speak about though is the amazing guitar covers that's been coming out of this game.
Yes.
So for those who don't know, throughout the game,
look, just to clarify, Edward is speaking about The Last of Us 2, which is a brand new release from Sony. It's one of the fastest released and selling titles in, PlayStation history. It's excellent. Yeah. It's the first time that we as Vamers have given a title a perfect score. And of course, bear in mind, when I say perfect, doesn't mean the game is perfect. Just that we gave it full marks, which is very, very rare. We've never done that before. Yeah. But it's the experience of the title, which I'm currently playing through, and Edward has already finished, which is just superb. And if you have a PlayStation, play this game. So, just to clarify a little bit more, in the game, Naughty Dog, the developers, actually incorporated a full-on guitar mechanism whereby you could actually play any strings, and this is what Edward's going to talk about now.
Yeah, so essentially, as you play through the game, you find guitars laying around, or basically, if you come across a music shop, you'll find a guitar there that you can play as Ellie. And basically, the game lets you choose a set of, I think, 8 chords, and then you can switch between the different sets of chords with the bumper buttons.
Yes.
And using those, you can make the most amazing music. Now, people on YouTube have actually been doing that.
That's awesome.
They've been actually playing known songs, known hits everywhere in the world on this little mini game in the game.
Yeah, this fake like digital guitar.
Yes, and it's beautiful. Like what people come up with. Now, there's this one guy especially. He's already released a bunch of videos on this topic. Like he has, I think at the moment, 5 parts.
Wow.
Where he just plays a gajillion covers of songs, and it's super beautiful. So basically, my favorite is "Hurt" from Johnny Cash, and
awesome. Well, look, we're going to play it for you. Let's actually listen to what it sounds like. So what did you think? For those of you who are listening, let us know. If you have the game, have you played anything cool on the digital guitar that Ellie or Joel often use? Let us know. I mean, it's a core part. Well, I'm not going to say it's a core part of the experience, but it's definitely a cool one. And I'm not very musically inclined, I just followed the prompts when they came up, and then let the cinematics play, and then after that, just put down the guitar and left.
Pretty much. I did the same. Well, obviously, I did try to play one of the few songs that I actually can play on the guitar. But
you did? How
I
was
just
it?
suck.
Oh.
I suck too much with the touchpad, because as you touch, you can literally play them string by string on the touchpad.
Yes.
And I just fail with that. Also, just a quick piece of trivia for you. The song that Joel plays at the start for Ellie, at the very beginning of the game, is actually Future Days from Pearl Jam, which is already a song an amazing song on its own.
I didn't know that.
So, yeah. So,
wow.
it's a beautiful cover that Joel plays.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's
wow.
just a quick bit of trivia for you.
That's cool. Well, I guess, I mean, you should hope you have musical talent come post-apocalypse, because
right.
What else are you going to do for entertainment?
Exactly. Might as well write a few songs.
Or hook up some batteries, right?
Oh, yes. That works as well. Like,
if you can
get
find
some batteries going with solar power. Yeah, even if they are broke, you can turn them in for some cash, for some scrap metal maybe.
Yeah, so Edward wrote this very interesting piece about what you could do with car batteries in the post-apocalypse. And
Yes.
I think we have mentioned this before, but we're just bringing it up now again because, hey, we're here now. And it's just very interesting, like the things that you can do with it. And, at first glance, you might be like, oh, that's pretty self-explanatory. But if you didn't have the skill, I don't think many people would do it. So check out that article, which we'll naturally link in the show notes, and educate yourself for the impending post-apocalypse.
Yeah, you never know what might happen at the end of 2020.
Oh, gosh, please, let's not... As if the disaster trailer from episode 20 wasn't bad enough.
The last episode.
Right?
Gosh.
Well, look, talking about the post-apocalypse and what might happen. So, should the world end, as, many of us, sometimes think about, it is possible that, we'd have to rely on things from the past to get by on, day to day. I mean, if electricity fails, so does sanitation. So, they won't be running water. Yeah. You can't use the loo. There's no power, so you have to resort to like the basics. And this is not how I found this. I actually can't remember how I came across this post. But it has to do with ancient Rome and how the Romans would use feces and urine for a variety of genuinely practical day-to-day scenarios.
I'm truly wondering how you got.
I honestly can't remember, but
because like I'm reading a bit ahead, obviously, because you linked it to me, and boy,
look, so. For some of the stuff, it's a little bit self-explanatory. So, they talk about how they wrote really, how they managed to grow really juicy fruits and, better fertilizer for fields. I mean, that's obvious. If you're going to use your feces and urine for plants, of course, because, yes, it's filled with toxins, but plants pull out the good stuff that's still there.
Exactly.
They're full, okay, this is going to lead us on a whole other path of like GMO and how like, hormones in cow's milk. Anyway, we're not talking about that. So yes, maybe if you're using your urine and feces to grow vegetables and then you eat those vegetables, maybe you're getting some extra hormones. But it's probably negligible. I don't know. I haven't done the research into that. But anyway, what I really want to speak about are some of the more interesting uses of fecal matter and urine, especially in what could be the post-apocalypse. One of those being, without adequate sanitation or running water, how are you going to brush your teeth? So, yes, you could use bark, and you technically don't need water or toothpaste to clean your teeth. But we have something else for you. You can use your urine.
Like, I think I saw this on a Bear Grylls episode once, and I just can't believe it.
I'm not talking about peeing into a cup and, like, rinsing your mouth out with it. So there's a little bit more to it than that. So what you would do is you would urinate, and you'd actually let it marinate for a while. And
basically to draw all the ammonia
yes, so it decomposes into ammonia. And once you've done that, you can use it to help whiten your teeth. And all you do is just, rinse your mouth out and spit it. So you don't drink it or anything like that. And the best part about it is if you don't want to use human urine, you can use animal urine. Personally, I prefer to use my own because I know it's coming from me.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'd much rather use my own urine than some dogs.
Well, look, the fact of the matter is it can help whiten your teeth. So if you want to have pearly whites during the post-apocalypse, this is what you got to do. You know, what about your...
So that's how Ellie and Dina did it.
Yes, probably. They're characters from The Last of Us, for those of you who aren't aware.
Yeah.
Now, on the same topic of whitening your teeth, you could also use the same ammonia from urine to actually freshen the colors of, back in the past, their togas. So you could actually wash your clothes with them. So you want to keep the few bits of clothing you have looking colorful and bright? Hey, urine is your best friend.
Yeah. Like, tanning is actually something I already knew about. Like, they did use urine and feces for tanning.
Yes.
Leather, especially for, that classic cliche Roman armor you always see with the strips of leather. That's actually tanned with urine. They usually used cow, or not cow, but bull urine.
And feces, I see, hey? Wow.
Yes, and feces. But that's actually something.
So I see here that urine would help remove the hair from the pelt, and the feces were ground into it because they have enzymes which actually softened it. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's why they wore
Okay, well,
it.
there we go. So if you go and you kill a cow and you eat it, you can take its hide and use your fecal and urine to make something beautiful out of it. Hey?
Like,
or better still, if you are lucky enough to have pets in the post-apocalypse, you can also help them with diseases by getting them to drink urine, either yours or their own.
Yeah.
Apparently it helps.
Apparently.
Yeah, like they wrote here that the Romans used urine for veterinary purposes, whereby sheep with bile issues were given human urine to drink, and even those with lung issues, and it helped.
That's cool.
Right? Apparently it works on bees and birds and stuff as well. This is crazy. This is crazy.
That's super crazy.
Who knew that urine had so many practical purposes?
Right. And also, like, nowadays we just burn everything that has bird flu.
Yes.
In the Romans fed the birds urine and it cured them.
For
apparently.
bird flu?
That's weird.
No.
Yeah. It says, like, I'm no scientist.
Okay, we're not condoning this, okay?
Yes. But apparently they did it.
Wow.
Wow.
How
That's super interesting.
How incredible is that? Well, I mean, look,
Yeah.
now that we're on the topic of urine, feces, and naturally we're moving on to genitals,
Naturally.
it is time for, drumroll please, hashtag NSFW on GETL.
Woo! And we know some of you have been
waiting
holding
for
out
this,
for this
waiting. Every episode. We love it. Like some of our most responded to topics every time we do one of these is the NSFW content. And we thank you for this because it's entertaining and it's fun.
Exactly. I'm just glad we didn't decide to keep taboo stuff out of the
No,
podcast,
of course not. I mean,
if that makes sense. Because
look, GETL is
the
gaming,
reception.
entertainment, technology, and lifestyle. I mean, if you ain't the pumping in your lifestyle, okay, fine, I respect your decision. But for everybody else,
But you're wrong.
Okay, so this was a bit of a weird one. So for those of you who've been listening, you know I love Animal Crossing. And I'm also didn't know about, is it Rule 37? What is it, Edward?
36.
Sorry? Rule 34.
Sorry,
No, I didn't
Rule
know about
34.
it. Well. Rule 34 plus Animal Crossing is wild, if I have to say anything at it at all. But
well, Animal Crossing is already wild to begin with.
Well, weirdly enough, I'm only mentioning that because it's things that I don't feel like it's so cutesy and loving. Why? Anyway, it doesn't matter what people are turning it into. Everybody's got their own thing. Good for you guys. But what one fan did is he actually took the game and coded it to work with digital vibrators, specifically a digital butt plug. And
That's amazing.
So
Wow.
his name is Kyle McCoulis. I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. And he's the creator of an open source project called the Butt Plug Sex Toy Control Project. And essentially what it does is it's code to get butt plugs to vibrate when certain things happen either in the world of games or for anything really. So like, let's say somebody's on a YouTube stream and they get a new subscriber. Hey, your butt plug can vibrate. So this is technically what he wrote it for. And so what ended up happening is that apparently there were a variety of cam girls who thoroughly enjoy Animal Crossing New Horizons. You know, I don't blame them. It's a fantastic, phenomenal game.
Yeah.
But of course, if you're a cam girl, you're not exactly a game streamer. That's not your market. So they wanted specific coding so that when an action happened in Animal Crossing New Horizons, that their butt plug would work. Or something would go off, or whatever the case is. So
Naturally.
he then went and he built a... or rather, he hooked up his code with something called an interface game haptics router, which was connected to Animal Crossing. And he made it so that every time something happens in the game, like if you're digging something up or knocking a tree, or even if it's a random islander doing something completely random on your island, that your butt plug be going off.
So if something hectic happens, you're gonna sit with quite a dilemma. If you know what I mean.
I don't know about dilemma. I think you'll be smiling all the way.
Like, ooh.
So it's truly a fascinating project. We'll leave a link down to it below.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe you're adventurous or you have coding knowledge, and maybe you could use this in your day-to-day while you're playing a video game. I mean, why not? Get some additional pleasure from whatever it is that you're doing.
I'm just glad that someone actually did it. Like, I never thought of it, but now that it's done, I love it.
Well, honestly speaking, I think this could open up an entirely new stream of game streaming. So generally, I mean, okay. There's two ways. There's two ways of this. So firstly is the person streaming the game. You could watch them not only streaming but watching them gain pleasure, which I guess is the whole purpose of a cam model, right? But imagine the reverse. Imagine you could connect yourself to whatever the streamer is doing. So every time the streamer digs something, your butt plug goes off while you're watching.
Okay.
Now, that is true interactive entertainment. Okay.
Synchronized butt play. Actually, that opens up a whole new revenue stream for
this is
game
exactly what I'm thinking. Okay, listen, y'all heard it here first, hey? In the GETL podcast.
Yeah.
So I know we haven't patented or anything, but this is
send us the check.
5% royalties. Thank you.
Unplug.io. Jeez.
Well, anyway, look, it's fascinating. I thought it was incredible, merging this really cutesy, awesome little game with digital sex toys. It's awesome. It's cool, and it has a variety of purposes. And I love it. I love it. Now, this is going to lead us into something else, which is not game related, but it is with what's happening in the world today, and that has to do with the Rona. More specifically, that a brand new symptom has literally arisen.
Reared its head. It's poking out.
If you don't know of the term priapism, I'm going to speak to you about it today.
Yeah. Enlighten us.
It namely affects men. And it has to do when you have a prolonged erection for a long period of time where it actually becomes painful. So it's not pleasurable. Like, yes, everybody's like, oh, long period of time when you're going at the act. But no, we're talking about you get a full-on erection and you didn't want it and it's there and it's painful and it's throbbing and it's not going away. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's called priapism. And weirdly enough, there was a person in France, of course, of all places, a 62-year-old patient who presented with full-on priapism for several hours while being admitted into hospital for being unable to breathe. And the doctors, identified the fact that he has COVID-19. So they were like, oh crap. They looked into it. And as it so happens, he actually had blood clots in his penis, which were preventing the blood from draining out. And a little bit more reading into it actually turns out that as if COVID-19 wasn't bad enough, actually 30% of patients exhibit blood clots. God. Right? I mean, that's just another symptom nobody wants to hear about.
And blood clots are fatal.
Yes, blood clots are dangerous.
If they pass through the heart, you get fatal heart attacks.
Exactly. So yeah, if you have an erection that won't go away and you haven't taken any drugs, get that shit seen to. Okay, go to a hospital.
Don't be afraid to see a doctor if anything down there goes wrong.
Oh,
even if
of course. Good grief.
Like, you might think like, oh, this, because it's not often spoken about, but men get them for just about any reason, not just about thinking of sex.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes it'll just pop up. Maybe you are a COVID patient and you'll think nothing of it until 2 hours later and it'll still be there.
Well, okay, look.
Like, just get a check.
If you're getting them, it's not a sign of COVID-19. We're just talking about...
Yes. But if you are
for
a COVID
prolonged periods of time.
Yes.
Okay?
just go to your doctor.
We're not doctors. Let's just clarify that for a second.
Yes. That's why we say go. Like, go see your GM.
And
that's
interesting. What Edmund said is totally true. So anyone who's traveled a lot, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I'll often get the whole time zone awkward erection where you don't really need it to be happening right now. And what ends up happening because of the time zone differences, when you are meant to be waking up in your home country, but now you're out and about on the road in another country and boom, hello, ma'am.
Yep.
I'm standing to attention. And you're just like, okay, I got to sit for a couple of minutes. Thanks. Actually, speaking of, it just occurred to me, if that actually does happen to you, and you want to get rid of that awkwardness, as in, it's full on, and you want to, get rid of it, not because you don't love it, just because you're in a situation where you don't need it. Actually, pump one of your other muscles. I know that sounds strange,
yes,
but if you flick that or something, it actually
helps.
Yeah,
the blood
it helps.
flow.
Yeah, that's right. The body actually responds to it and moves the blood away. So there you go.
Yep. If you're ever in an awkward situation, just try flexing one of your non-existent
as if
muscles.
that's not more awkward. It's like, why are you dabbing? It's like, you don't need to know.
Like, I'm dabbing because of reasons. Okay,
yeah, reasons
Karen.
that I don't want to disclose right now.
You'll find out later.
Well, there we go, everybody. I think we've reached the end of episode 21. It was thoroughly enjoyable, Edward. It was a nice one, and I'm really excited with the fact that we recorded it. So I hope that it turns out well. If there is a video element to this and you see it, it means it worked. If there isn't one,
stay tuned for next time.
But with that said, again, thank you all so much for listening and for writing in and for communicating with us. As always, Edward and I thoroughly enjoy it. And we always look forward to seeing you all again next week. So thank you so much. Ciao for now.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.